Yes, guys, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Dave, and we will be going through or giving you our reaction to today's 5-1 win against Lion City Sailors, and we are Tiger Cup champions of 2023. So everybody, welcome my winners. Welcome to the winner's circle. We have a lot to get through today. I mean, there's news coming out about Joe Lewis, which we'll touch on towards the end. Also, news coming out from Matt Law that Perisic has been told he can leave. And, of course, we have all the events to unfold during the game. Here to discuss the game with us today is the one and only Michael. You know him from the fan shows. You absolutely love what he has to say. Michael, how are you keeping, my man?
I'm good, David. There is actually a lot to get into. Yeah. I would like to ask people to not overreact to a game against Singapore football team. Like, chill, guys, just chill. But still, like, I liked some things, but I absolutely hated the others. So we'll get into it, definitely.
Well, look, Michael, hopefully you've grabbed yourself a drink to celebrate being Tiger Cup champions. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but you got to take the small victories where they are, especially off the back of the seasons we've had. And, of course, we have the one and only return of the Mac, a.k.a. Wes. Wes, how you keeping, my man?
I'm good, Dave. I'm good. How are you been?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Look, excited for the season ahead, although, I know the centre-back issue's going to come back and haunt us. So get that done, and we'll be absolutely fine. Now, we've got a lot to get through today, but, of course, we always have time to welcome people in the chat. So let's see who we've got with us quickly. We have Jacob. Like secured, everyone do the pigeon dance. Absolutely love it. Do you know what, Jacob? Got spoiled for choice today. I got to do it 5 different occasions, and only 3 of them mattered. Absolutely loved it, Jacob. We have Paul O'Connor in the building. Big up, Paul. Great to see you, my man. Hopefully you've booked yourself a nice sun holiday trip off the back of that. Mr. Keaveney, I seen you asking, was I sponsored by Lucas Aid? I'm not, but it does give your boy energy. Better than 100%. As you know, it's 110%, my man. And he says, one trick Kulu found out again today, even a poor team from Singapore knew to nullify him. Look, that's one discussion we will be having today about Kulu for sure. We have Tequila 316. What in the blue hell is the Tiger Cup? It's the cup we've won today, my man, for beating Lion City Sailors. So, yeah, we're champions. And then we've got another cup coming up against Barcelona before, so we can put 2 in the pre-season cabinet. That's the Aldi Cup, the Water Till Cup, and now, the Tiger Cup. So let's go for the one out in Barcelona.
That one I want more.
By the way, the Tiger is an Asian beer, by the way. It's really good, actually. I had it once or twice. It's really good.
Do you know what Jack was thinking about running down to getting some to celebrate? So, Jack, if you're listening, my man, Michael's giving the okay on it. We've got Scott Culliver says going forward we could be good. Defensively, we might as well put out cones instead of players. Absolutely terrible. The fullback situation is just as bad as the centre-back situation. None of them fullbacks are good. Well, we'll definitely get in and talk about that as well, my man, for sure. Corey Boy 85 says, why are we getting hyped and smashing? Look, we're not getting hyped. Look, my man, at the end of the day, we win. I'm happy. And I'm going to be happy until the next game. No one's getting hyped. I'm not excusing the problems that's going on. But on today's game, we scored goals. And I'm happy. I'm in a good mood. So don't take me out of it, please. We got Wayne Bonner. He says, afternoon all again. So Richie outscored Kane then. Yeah, nice hat trick today, Wayno. Nice hat trick, my man. Absolutely love it. Big up, Wayno. Good to see you in the building. Hopefully you got to watch the game. Oliver 243 says, big up, Dave. Do you know if Shakhtar play attacking or defensive football? I think it will help us with variety. Look, from the Shakhtar I knew before, whatever has gone on out there, they played attacking football, and I'd like to still think that the principles are more or less the same. You look at some of the players that have come out there, Mudryk, Solomon, very attacking players. So I would say attacking football, my man. And that's more a special question for Jack, actually. So Jack's actually putting up a post-match fan cam for all the members and everything else. So if you are a member, get that question in underneath it, my man. Big up, Terry Wright. Good to see you in the building, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Davey Hall in the building, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Sky Hynem's with us as well. Big up to all. We also have Liston Hines. People are having a go at Kulu for being awful today. I don't get it. I thought you had a good game. Look, I thought it was awful, if you want me to be brutally honest, but we will get into that, my man. We will get into that listing. But let's know why you thought he was good, actually. Put in the comments. Let's know why you have a difference of opinion. My man, Big up, Johnny boy. I have got your number. After this, I will shoot you a text, brother. Big yourself up. TJ Warren TV. Yeah, look, you got to take the victories where you can get them.
Piss off, DJ. Piss off.
I know it's pathetic, right? But I told everybody, I'm one of them fans. Big up Mary W. Richie, Brazil's number 9. Bob Belcher says breaking news: Bayern have turned down the pursuit of Kane to Richarlison after stunning second half performance.
Yes.
I love it. Fox on the Hill Princess, big up, Dave. If only our defense putting as much graph on the pitch as you do for this channel. Look, really appreciate that, my man. That's, one thing I can't take is a lack of commitment or a lack of, trying to improve. Pisses me off. And, still got issues. Sean Daniel says, Richie to the rescue, as predicted. Love it. We also have Richard Taylor. Hello from Melbourne. Big up, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've got a lot of people that are getting involved in this channel from down under. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Make sure we're not missing anyone. We don't like to make sure no one feels left out. We got Soft. He says Perisic suits the system more than Son or Kulu. Neither of them could get a decent cross off. I'd keep Perisic. And that I do want to talk about, actually. Paddy Harnett says, champions, baby, the league is ours. Big up, Paddy. Absolutely love it. Gary Officer, big up, Dave. If we don't get centre back or two, this is going to be a long season. A very, very long season, my man. Very long season. And I'd argue the only thing you've changed is the style of football, but the winning, getting over the line hasn't changed. That's what I'd argue if that's the case, my man. But you're spot on, Gary. Big up, Derek. Great to see you, sir. We have Bobby Andrews says Andrew's a big, big fan of Lo Celso, and I agree with him. He's massively suits the way we set up. He could be a hidden gem this season. Do you know what? We'll get onto that as well, and I'm going to eat a bit of humble pie. Very rarely I do, because I'm very rarely wrong. But on this one, your boy will take a big spoon of humble pie. So big yourself up. John Fitzpatrick, another one from down under. My Irish man, hopefully you're keeping well. Did you watch the All-Ireland at the weekend? Says we should challenge for the title after the display. R9 for the golden boot. Big up, John. I'm not getting that carried away. Ian Sciencefield says big up, Dave. And team, big up, my man. We also have Nicholas. Nicholas says big up, lads. Great to see you, brother. Liam is in the building. Big up, Dave from Dublin. Go on, Liam, my man. Big yourself up. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Good. Big yourself up, my man. Great county to be from. Not too far away from me either, actually. So if I'm ever up there, and you're up where I am, let's meet up, my man. Let's go for a coffee. Elvis Pace big up, lads from Kenya. Big up, Elvis, my man. Absolutely love that. Great to see you in the building. And then we also have the one and only Phil. Richie bagging a hat-trick. Rip up Kane's contract now. Big up there. Big up, Phil. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. No, look, don't do that. Don't do that, Phil. Too early. We'll have a good discussion on Kane as well. And then two more. Rob Fuzzer says, big up, boys. I'm here to represent from Vital Spurs. Big up, my man. Good platform, actually. I need to send. We're going to get one of them on, or a couple of them on the fan shows, and let's hear what they have to say. And also, if anybody has time, do check out that platform as well. And Adam Phillips says, "Are we going to regret not pushing the boat for Raya?" Look, we'll have to wait and see on that one. We'll have to wait and see. But we're going to bring up the match stats, and then we're going to get the boys in. So the match stats of today's game, of course, as you can see, sorry, 1 second, Adam Phillips' name is dominating, taking up half my graphic. Big up, Adam Phillips. So, of course, you can see we won 5-1 today against the Posh Boys Boat Club. 37 shots on goal with 11 on target compared to their 4 with 1 on target, and the 1 on target went in. Possession, 80% to 20%, 18 corners to 2, passes 712 to 182. So as you can see, we absolutely dominated that game. Now, Michael, what's your thoughts on the game overall? Of course, we'll go into other topics deeper, but what's your general thoughts coming out of that game, my man?
Yeah, like overall, even though that we conceded, which is a shambles, we'll talk about it later, right? But even though we conceded, like, let's be honest, the opposition wasn't anything to like write home about. Like this is, I've heard one other team comparing it to like US teenager teams, basically teenager league, right? It's basically the same level if you look at like rankings and whatever, right? So let's not get overly gassed that we've beat them. Yeah. I actually think that I would be gassed if we did a Bayern and defeated them 23-0 or something. Then maybe I would be gassed, right? But other than that, yeah, I think one thing that concerns me the most is how our first team, or at least people who we would consider first team, aren't really performing, right? The teams that are in first 45 minutes. and the second team, or the team of scraps, or however you want to call them, they are performing the best, right? And easily in both matches, after the second half starts, we are way better than in the first half. That's a bit concerning to me, but
100%. 100%. And there's a couple of things you touched on there that I do want to go deeper into a bit. Like, we'll go into, do we think that Ange Postecoglou's first team? But also do want to talk about the disparity between the first half and second half performances. Because for me, I think it's actually a hangover from the Conte days, something that Ange has to sort of put right. And we'll go into that deeper. Wes, what's your overall thoughts on the game, my man?
That the A team and the B team are completely different to me. I think whenever the second half team gets out there, they play a whole lot better within the system that Postecoglou got fed up, and then we end up finally actually getting into the game and scoring goals and start really, really dominating the team. This doesn't happen twice. It happened with the West Ham game. That the first half, his first 11 just we were playing well, we were getting chances, but we weren't really scoring. It's been just one goal. I think both first halves has been just one goal. While whenever the second half team gets out there, they start, they seem like the second half team got some real good, togetherness already within a couple, like first week or two that they've been playing and practicing together. So I think he's going to have a hard choice on what's going to be the real starting 11, because we got certain players on his first half team that hasn't really stepped up to the plate just yet against whoever we're going against. No, whoever we're going against is who we go against in preseason. That's just who we have to face, and that's But if the defense really is probably the main problem. But it's two different type of teams that are playing a little. Like, you got the second half team playing just a lot more together and fitting in more to the system quicker than the first half team.
And look, I question on that, Wes, could it be that in the first half you've got two wingers that want to cut in on their preferred foot? Exactly. Whereas in the second half you sort of have wingers playing on the right side, so they're getting
who like to cross. Exactly.
So look, we're definitely going to get into that. I just want to say to everybody out there who's joining us, everybody, get your questions in as we go along. I will start them and I'll bring them up as we're touching certain subjects. So please get engaged with us, get them in. But if you really want to make it stand out, want us to get onto it right now without us avoiding it, feel free to make it a super chat. But it's always a great way to support the work ethic and the content and the platform that we provide for Spurs fans out here. Also, feel free to grab one of them memberships if you like and smash that like button. Now, we've got a lot to get through, so I do want to start with maybe the sort of starting lineups. We'll head back to you on this one, Michael. Mm-hmm. So the first half team selections from both games, you've got Kane in there, you've got Son, you've got Bissouma, who Ange Postecoglou really likes, Madison, Vicario. And we I know Postecoglou said in his press conference, don't read too much into it, but I think, in my opinion, them first half teams are where he more or less sees his sort of first 11 taking shape. Would you agree with that? And is there any positions in that sort of starting lineup, in that first 11, that we think will be, that are still up for grabs in your eyes?
Yeah, definitely, boys. It's like, for me, our starting 11 is a mix of like most of the first half team and some players from the second half team. I don't think all the 11 players that started in the first half today should be the starting 11. And it's not because I don't like them. It's not because I don't think they are good enough. I just feel like the team that we fielded out today was a bit imbalanced, in my opinion. I think we had two really attacking fullbacks. And I know Ange himself said that he doesn't see a problem in playing them both. I just feel like Udogie and Porro playing on both sides gives us the most potential, in my opinion. They are the most electric, the most fun to watch, the most creative, etc. But I feel it will take a lot of time for them to gel in, for them to actually learn what is required of them in that role. Because I feel like both of them are kind of too caught up in the attacking mind, whereas they don't really. No, it's not that they don't contribute or don't run back, but they don't put enough effort, and it will take a shitload of effort to play that system if you are a fullback in Ange's system, right? So fullbacks is one place for me to look. Not because I don't think they are good enough. It's because I think for now we should focus a bit more on like keeping the balance. if we had Poro and a more defensive-minded fullback like Davies, for example, or even Reguilon, although Reguilon is also a bit suits, but one of them two, or the other way around, Royal and Udogie, I feel like it would provide a bit more like stability in the back. Because right now, when I look at like the first half performances in both matches, we are shaky at the back. We do, whenever the ball goes over the top, we don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what the role is, and I know it will take time to develop, those schemes that they will actually learn how to behave, right? But right now, I would rather prefer fullbacks to be like a bit more balanced. And other than that, I think there is a lot of work to be done in the midfield. But I think like most of the players that played in the midfield in both matches actually like surprised me and were good, right? I don't think there was a standout bad performance. They were maybe average or not really visible, let's say, but it wasn't like they did some major bad, fuck up or whatever, right? So I think Andrew's role will be to select like the best possible, 3 out of those 5 or 6 surnames that he has to choose from, right? And in attack, I guess we will talk about attack later, because like I'm a bit sus with the whole attack thing, right? It's so strange because I kind of agree with the previous commenter that said that I'm not necessarily sure if Son and Kulu are the best for this system. I think we should adjust the system a bit, but we'll talk about it later. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I want to get into that because there's I think there's going to be a long discussion over that. Just as a follow-up question, Michael, what I sort of do want to ask you is, look, I think many people out there would agree with you with on the fullback situation that, I think Emerson, is fine, but the other 3, there's still sort of questions and doubts about it. Let me ask you, Michael, if you had a leader at centre back who communicated, who talked, who could like pull these people into positions, stuff like that, help coach them through the game, because it is a part of the game that, is underlooked at Tottenham Hotspur, and it's a huge part of the game, having that leader there, being able to organise people, put them in positions. Do you think you would see much better from these guys at fullbacks, or do you think, no, look, it just needs a lot of coaching, or we're going to have to add that to the transfer list plus centre-backs?
No, I don't think we should be shopping for a fullback. I think we are well covered in that position. And imagine we already have issues with bringing in center backs, even center defensive mid. There is some talks about it, right? We already have issues with doing that. So adding another problem to it for me would be overdoing it. I don't think you would find a suitable replacement or challenger for those spots. But what I think there is like a couple of things that are at work here. I think one of them is the lack of leadership in the backline, as you said. We know Romero is not a leader, right? I actually think he will suit that system when he gets a leader next to him, right? Romero will occupy that right center back spot. We need like a Tapsoba. I think Tapsoba is the guy, right? I would absolutely love it if we brought in Tapsoba because he is vocal. He wasn't necessarily like the biggest leader in that Leverkusen backline, because I think it was the other guy, Tach, I think his surname is. I think it was mostly his job leading the backline, right? But still, I think Tapsoba would be a refresher. And I think with him, it's either him leading the fullbacks, or one other thing that we could maybe try is do the whole center defensive mid jobs in between, and then you can bob on with fullbacks because you have 3 at the back, right? Right now, I kind of had a feeling with, especially with Bissouma on the pitch, that we tried to push Bissouma up more and leave like 2 defensive center backs further back, and fullbacks had to cover, right? So I think there are ways to fight that whole situation. And which one of them is chosen by Postecoglou is up to him. Of course, I trust him that he will find something out. But I think those fullbacks, Udogie and Poro, I see potential in them that they can be coached to whichever like solution he finds. I think they can be coached and suit that system, right?
Look, I agree. For me, look, I think centre-backs are urgent. I think you could coach these guys.
So centre-backs are different,
Yeah, I think if you bring in a leader across the back line, and he has that communication with, I think it's not going to alleviate all the problems, but it would eliminate some of the mistakes, having that guy, sort of speaking to them. But do you think they can be trained? Because you're asking Porro to play from a right wing back to a right back. Adoji looks a bit more comfortable on the other side. And Reacion, look, defensively, there are flaws to his game. Are they too attack minded to be able to do the defensive requirements? Or do you believe it can be done with good coaching?
It's I think we're poor. I think poor will probably be more winger. To be honest with you, I don't see these last two games. I have not seen too much where even during the season last season when he came on from the January transfer window, he's not that great of a defender. That was one of the question marks about him when we were all reviewing him before we bought him from Sporting. And one of those problems were his defensive ability. And a lot of times it looked very bad. And one, because of the team he was on, especially in the Champions League game, once you go in their league in Portugal, they were a dominant team, of course, because they're the three of that league. They're one of the three big clubs from that league. But when you got the Champions League and you saw his Champions League play, you saw that he was a little average when it came to defensive ability and then even offensive ability when he would go against superior talent. So I think the offensive side he has that. We've seen him score goals already for Tottenham. I think defensively, for him to play right back is going to take some real. I guess we're just going to have to hope that Postecoglou knows what he's doing with him specifically, but I don't see anybody else who could really replace him but Real. But Real's very not good offensively. He has decent defensive ability. I don't think he's outstanding by any means. I'm still questionable about Real still to this day. I know he's improved under a lot of people's eyes, but for me, I'm still questionable about how good is he for to play in even the Premier League. So I know defensively he can definitely help the team, but offensively it's my problem with Real replacing Porro as the starting right back. Spence, if we put in like a Spence or somebody like that, I don't even know if Spence could really do the job defensively as well. Because we haven't really seen him. That's more and more the more game. I want to see a couple more games to see how these right backs do, but I think the right back is increasingly starting to be a little bit more of a problem than I thought. Initially, I thought Porro and Royale was going to be fine. But the more and more we start seeing games under the belt in this new system, the more I think a lot of people are starting to see, okay, that's the spot that we need. I think for left back wise, Udogie should be starting. I think point blank in the period. There's no reason for. I like Reacion. I think Reacion does good with crossing, passing, linking up play. Defensively, questionable. And that was a problem with him even before he got on loan. And I think Udogie's is head shoulders above him. So and Davies, he has no business playing left back.
Yeah. Look, for me, I think I'm comfortable on the left hand side. I think Udogie, Reacion, fine. Exactly. I get the concerns on the right hand side, but for me, I'm okay with going in with them options into the season. I do think someone like Porro is coachable. I think he has that sort of determination to try and make it work as well. So I'm okay with that. But look, who do we blame for today's goal? So, of course, we went 1-0 down. I mean, Ben Davies, absolutely erratic on the ball, absolutely shocking. Then doubles down by trying to launch out to regain the possession, gets caught out. But Porro did let his man sort of slide off him at the back post. Who do we blame for today's goal? Because for me, look, it starts with Davies. This is what I talk about with the centre backs. We need people that are comfortable on the ball. And what he done there today was he panicked. He punted it into Papa Matasar, knowing that he was going to get his pocket picked. The guy was already reading the pass before Ben Davies done it. And it ended up then putting Porro in that position. Now, look, I get Porro has to be 10 times better. He's got to be stronger. And he's got to learn to deal with them. He has to. But Davies seems to be avoiding a lot of sort of criticism for today's goal. But, it's not the first time we've seen that from him.
Exactly.
Who do you blame for today's goal, Wes?
To me, I think it's the whole. To me, it's a team effort when it comes to defensive because
True.
it's all according to the system that your coach that the coach has under it. So you have to. I'm sure understand he said in certain press conferences that he haven't worked too much on defensive stuff yet. I think there is a reason for that, and I think that's going to be later on in the show when we talk about signings and things of that nature. But I'm sure he told them there's certain places they have to go with the team somehow gets back control of the ball and they're coming for a counterattack. I'm sure. There's no way he just told them to just play offense and there's no directions on where to place if there's ever to be a quick counterattack from the opposition. So I think it's all down to communication. We don't have a leader at the moment.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Romero. You would think because of his experience at the World Cup, being a World Cup winner, being on a team like Argentina, where he is on that team, one of the more voices to speak out and communicate. You thought that would transition to him playing for Tottenham. It hasn't really for some reason. I think that maybe because of language barrier. I don't know if he's been working on English, or if et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's becoming more and more prominent. When I play, and this is just me personally, and what coaches and everything told me when I play club, it's all about communication when it comes to the back line. That's all that goes down to all four of them. They don't care if you're playing a back three, back four. It all goes down to communication. And it's clear something's not clicking when it comes to the communication with the current players we have. Some of that has to do with skill level, some of that has to do with just not being that type of player that's very outspoken and yells all the time. It's to me it's a combination of things. It's not just one thing, and that's been a problem at Spurs for 4 years now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, look, let's move on to the forward areas, and I will end up reverting back to the likes of Lo Celso and stuff like that. Now, I'm going to use Harry Kane's goal to segue into it, and then we will get on to talking about Kulu and Son after that. So, look, of course, we ended the half 1-1 with a Harry Kane penalty, and I mean, it was great for my man just to give me that one last moment. Absolutely love it. So pick yourself up, Harry. But what do you make of his sort of 2 45-minute performances overall, Michael? Because both games he was sort of not really largely involved whatsoever. Now I have a sort of theory why he wasn't involved as much today. But is he disinterested, or is he just starting off slow like he usually does every season?
I have a feeling it's a massive mix, like a whole panoramic box of things, right? It's you cannot really attribute his performances to one thing, in my opinion, because I don't think it's necessarily because of the Bayern innings. I don't think it's necessarily because the system doesn't suit him. I don't think it's necessarily all the other things, but like every single one of those things kind of contributes to it, right? It's a really strange situation. I feel like for a couple of years, 4 years, right, since Pochettino left, we've been so heavily relying on this guy doing everything that we need to do, right? Everything went through him. He was dropping to the halfway line, spinning the balls out wide, joining the attack later, doing shots from the distance. Everything was going through him. And right now, our system does not require him to do that, right? But if you keep doing something for 4 bloody years and all the responsibilities on your back, it's hard suddenly to switch back to just being a fox in the box, right? It's hard to play completely different than you used to so far, right? So in that sense, I don't really want to blame the guy that in like 2 45-minute spells he hasn't adjusted turbo well to it yet. I think it would take time, depending whether he stays or not, right? It will take a bit of time for him to adjust, to get that Conte Mourinho mindset out of his mind. And I think the same thing applies to Son, by the way, which I know we'll talk about later a bit. But I think with Kane, he's so good. I have so much faith in this guy that I am confident if he stays, he will adjust to the system and he will perform well. Right now, I'm not going to surprise. Right now, it looks like Richarlison kind of suits the system better. I am nowhere nowhere saying that he's better player. Please chat, calm down before you rinse me, right? I'm nowhere saying that, nowhere near saying that, right? All I'm saying is that those 45 minutes spells, Richarlison, I think he has less like habit and would definitely way less ego in terms of when Postecoglou tells him you do this, this, and this, he does it, right? Whereas with Kane, I feel like it's often been, listen, Kane, you are a world-class player, you do whatever you want. And right now, Postecoglou is telling him, no, you stay in the box. You rely on your teammates to provide the balls for you. And Kane is like, those bumps, nah, no way. I'm doing it myself, right? Whereas actually he should trust his teammates. And it will come, right? If they provide him enough balls, if they show him that he can rely on them, then I think he will adjust, right? So that's Kane. And I don't know if you want me to move on to Son or Kulusevski.
No, we're going to. Well, yeah, you can. Look, I'll come back with a caveat question here. Look, Rob Fuzzard says Harry just does not suit the system. Comparing Kane and Richie shows one player who doesn't understand the system or doesn't want to, whilst the latter does. Now, for me, I've seen a bit of a frustrated Harry Kane today at times, telling Kulu and Son, get the ball into me, get it across. For me, I question, is it the players that suit the system better, or is it the wingers in the both halves that suit the system better? You look at Kulu and Son, right? Every time they want to cut in on side onto their preferred, onto their stronger foot, which means we're asking Harry Kane to play on the last line of the defense, on the defender's shoulder. So automatically, when that ball's played out, he's making a run expecting that cross to come. When they pull it back, he's offside. He has to try and get back onside, which means they have to keep on passing it across the middle, which is what we saw in the first half. In the second half, Perisic left-footed, Solomon over on the other side, crosses being whipped in left, right, and centre, and Richie has benefited from it. So, Michael, I ask, do you think it's down to Kane not understanding the system and Richie does, or is it actually down to the wingers? Is it down to the wingers that are being played for Kane and the wingers that are being played for Son?
Yeah, so I have actually been thinking a lot about the Kane and Kulu and Son in this system because, like, you know, when Ange was appointed, we are all doing like those tactical analysis of his style of play, etc., right? And what we gathered quickly was that when he's in the attacking phase, he plays kind of like a 2-3-5 system, right? Where 5 is the front three and 2 midfielders that attack the half spaces, right? And this means that your wingers have to play really close to the sideline, right? They have to be bombing down the sides, basically doing kind of what wing backs did for us in contest system, right? Because we also had like kind of a front 5, but the Son and Kulusevski in that contest system were tucked inside. They were the ones attacking the half spaces, right? Whereas right now they are asked to attack the wide areas.
Yeah.
And I think both of them, Kulu and Son, are way better in that half space attacking, you know, cutting in on the inside, shooting with their preferred foot, you know, the in-swinger balls, etc., right? I don't think they are suited for this wide man crossing the ball with like, you know, the leg of which you are, like the leg that the side you are on, right? Sorry, I lost my English for a second. Right? So, like, basically, it's Son with the left and Kulu with the right leg. They aren't going to cross the balls with that way, right? They have to cut in because their preferred legs are right and left, right? And also one crucial thing for Ange's system was that when the ball is near like the corner of the 16-yard box, right? You know, when you have the box in those two corners, I think Ange really wants crosses from that side to the other side of the box where the other winger or the midfielder can close them down and shoot, right? We weren't seeing that from Son and Kulu because they are on the wrong leg, right? They have to cross it inwards, like, you know,
with their favorite foot.
You have to put in swingers with the left or the right? Instead, they are on the outside and they would like to, you know, shoot or cross the ball inwards. Outwards. I think I fucked this up, right? But basically, you know what I mean, right? The ball, it's not a suitable cross for another winger to finish it. They are mainly doing crosses for a striker, right? But it's just something doesn't suit, and I was trying to come up with a way to fix it. I know Ange will definitely come up with something, right? But one thing that came to my mind, and I'm just giving it as an idea, maybe for you guys also to comment on, right? But what if, because in Ange's system, it's striker, midfielders attacking half spaces, and wingers, right? And fullbacks stacking as inverted ones to form the three in the midfield, right? What if we changed it to, for example, wingers being inside, wing backs being on the outside, and midfielders forming the midfield three? So we kind of move them around. The system stays the same, but the personnel is different in each space. I think that maybe would be one of the ways to suit Kulu and Son better, but that's completely changing Postecoglou's system. And I'm not sure if that's a good idea for the profile of players, of other players that we have, right? So I think there is a lot of work for Postecoglou to find out what's the best usage of Son and Kulusevski in that system, right? Sorry, that was
no, absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Wes, do you think that Son and Kulu do have to maybe switch positions? And does Ange have the balls to make that happen? Because we know coming in off the left onto Sonny's right boot is what he favours. He prefers it. Same as Kulu on the other side. And we'll take a few more comments. You have a few people here talking about Kulu. You have Nicholas saying Kulu's poor again, one trick pony, cut in, bend the shot, top defenders will be stopping that. And he is right. It is becoming sort of readable. And where's the other one I had? I can't find it now. But what do you think, Wes? Because there's been a lot of talk about Kane. Is he too selfish? Does he want to do what Ange wants him to do? But you're also going to have the same conversations about Kulu and Son. Will they be willing to switch off their preferred wings to play on these sides that suit Ange's system best? And do you think Ange has the balls to try it?
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that they're on their side where they're play inverted, because they like to cut in and be on their favorite foot. Kulu is a left-footed player. Son is a right-footed player. They need to be switched. So Son needs to be on the right, and then Kulu needs to be on the left to fit Ange's system to me, because then they'll be able to cross with their favorite foot. Kulu can cross the ball. We've seen him do it. It's just that, it's not all the time on his most favorite foot all the time, but he can do it on his right foot at times. But I've seen him do it on his favorite foot with his left foot, and it's beautiful. It's like a great arched ball that either Kane or one of the midfielders can get to in the box. I think what they need to do, they just need to switch them up, put Kulusevski on the left wing, which is where, in the system he needs to be anyway, because he's a left-footed player, and put Son on the right wing. Son can play either wing. We've seen him do it for Korea, seen him do it back in the past, and probably the early Spurs days, where they used to play him on different positions. Then sometimes a center forward back in the day, even when he was playing in Germany.
Do you take away from his goals, though, Wes, if you were to switch him? Because
I don't think
his preferred move has always been coming in off the left onto his right. If you move him onto the right, does that take away from his output in terms of goals?
I thought about that, and I think because you see, we're creating 30-some shots on goal. Sooner or later, some of them shots are going to be it's going to sometimes be Son, it's going to sometimes be Kulusevski at some point in time. I understand they're going to be playing a little bit more wide. They're not going to be in the box as much as they want. Thing is, they can still sometimes cut in if they wanted to. It's going to be on more unfavored foot, or if they have the ability, they can shoot it on their actual favorite foot, but it'll be more of a curl. They have to go for more of a curl shot instead of a diagonal, line shot like you're supposed to do if you're on that kind of positioning. But to me, I think if you got a world-class player like Son, he's going to find a way to score sooner or later. Like, especially the more comfortable he gets with the system. It's going to take him a while. He's probably not going to, we're probably going to have that moment where you're going to have the media saying, oh, Son is not scoring goals and all that just for a second year straight. But you're going to see, a lot of people, a lot of the media, they like doing this, but they're not going to point out that he may have like 6 assists in like 7 or 8 games or something crazy, or 10 games or something crazy. I think, and I feel like the key is really for Ange's system is to really get the striker to score more. Most of the goals are the midfielders to score more of the goals, not necessarily the wings or the fullbacks. But I feel like with if you have world-class players, they're going to find a way to score within the system, especially if you have a lot of chances. And the way Aaron's system is set up, it creates a lot of chances. And sooner or later, Son will figure out a way to be able to cut in at times and when the time permits to score goals and still get shots off himself. And of course, Kane, he's a very, very high IQ player. He's going to know sometimes that he doesn't have to go into the box and make the run all the time. He can sometimes trick the opposition defenders and have either Kane or Kulusevski cut in and going for a shot, or even the midfielder behind him. So I feel like the most logical sense is just to switch them up and see what happens. He could very well try that in preseason. Preseason is the time to try it, not probably in the Premier League game, right? And try new things in the middle of a Premier League when we need the 3 points. But I feel like it is something he can think about for a preseason match, maybe against Barcelona or Shakhtar Donetsk. I can see it, but I feel like that's probably the most logical sense, is just to switch them out and see what happens.
Yeah.
Or change one, or at least have one that's inverted and have one that's on the side, and just balance it out.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to add, David, right, is like, don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong in sometimes cutting in and trying to shoot, right? Both of them have a nasty shot on them, right? It's good that they are trying to do it, right? But in this system, that's not the only thing that they can do, right? They have to do more. They have to use their other, they have to use their other side to put in crosses or to do some intricate plays with those two central midfielders that contribute, right? So for me, with Son, I think it's less of an issue with Son because we know that his left foot is pretty much as good as his right. His right is the preferred one, right? But I don't think he will have many issues in adjusting and trying to cross the ball with his left, right? Which would be suitable for that position. That's what Ange wants, is the left winger to put in crosses with his left foot, right? But this game, they just didn't try it. This game, both of them just kept cutting in, right? Same thing with Kulu. Like previous season, he wasn't doing it often, but actually he put quite a few crosses with his right. Those weren't as good as the left ones. But if he works on it, that's a new dimension that he adds to his game, right? Because we all say that he's extremely one-sided. Like a one-trick pony. Like all he does is cut in, right? But imagine if he works on his right foot and it allows him to not only cross the ball, but do the one thing that I was the most impressed when we bought him. What he was doing is he was doing those darting runs to the end line and then cutting the ball inside, like low balls into the box when the midfielders were joining. That's exactly what Ange wants, right? This is why those midfielders are attacking the half spaces, so that they can receive the ball either from a cross from the other side or from the winger that cuts into the box and tries to pass the ball like into the 11th meter line, let's say, that those spaces, right? That's the point. So I think I trust that both of them will find a solution, but I think it will take time and it has to take patience from our fan base, right? Because listen, I'm not going at anyone in the chat, but you've highlighted a couple of comments of people saying Kulu is fucking rubbish, why is he playing, whatever, he's one-trick pony, useless, whatever. Calm down, guys. Like, give them time to adapt to a new system. Same thing with fullback, same thing with Vicario, because I've seen them like a hell of a lot of Vicario slander. Guys, calma. Just, give them time to adjust and give them time to work, right?
Yeah. Look, go on, Miss.
I just want to add one thing. I feel like Son's left-footed shot is better than his left-footed cross. So that's why I feel like if you just switch them out, if you put Kulusevski, I think Kulusevski is more of a playmaker anyway. He's not a natural scorer. I think he's more of a playmaker. I feel like he'd be more natural on the left where he's putting in crosses, he's able to pass the ball like he wants to, but still cut in here and there. He probably won't have the greatest right foot shot. I haven't really seen too much of his right foot shot. But I feel like with a dynamic player like Son, who we know can shoot with his left or right foot, it matches for him to be on the right side because then he's able to put in good crosses. He's better with his crosses with his right foot than he is with his left foot. It is not that great with crosses with his left foot. So I feel like we just switch them out. It will balance it out, and then boom, you have a player that can still do both, and that will lead to Son being a little bit more dynamic than what he is right now.
Yeah, look, for me, I think, we got to realize as well today. Today we're up against a team that sat more or less everybody behind the ball
Mhm.
in them games. And we've seen it in the past with Antonio Conte. If you take yourself back to the season, we got Champions League. We got undone by Brighton and Brentford towards the back end of that season. Two teams that clogged up the middle, but we didn't want to go out wide that day. But the way to beat these teams is go out wide and get the ball in behind the back line. We didn't do that enough in the first half, and I think in games like that, I think there is a benefit to maybe switching Son and Kulu for games like that. But against the likes of cities and stuff like that, I think you can get away with maybe the inverted wingers. But look, we got to understand Son is only back from the surgery. It's going to take
Yeah,
him a
yeah.
bit longer to get up to speed. Kulu, look, the performances haven't been great, sort of getting concerning. But what I will say is he's still getting into good positions. And once he finds that rhythm and that flow again, he'll start being lethal Kulu. So for me, I have no problems with them, but I do think what we've just said there about, in the first half compared to the second half and the chances that game was getting compared to Richie. The reason why is because you're playing wingers that want to cut inside and shoot compared to wingers that want to get on the outside and whip the ball in. So that's the difference. I don't think it comes down to interest. I just think it comes down to the system behind the striker, the support system. But look, let's move on from that. Great conversation, by the way, boys. I actually really enjoyed that. I think it's a good, valid conversation. Let's move on to the midfield. Let's have a quick discussion on Papamata Sarr, and then we'll move into the second half and the Celso and things like that. Look, I was delighted to see Papamata Sarr start. I think I really like the guy. I've liked him ever since I saw him come off the bench in the game against Crystal Palace where we beat them 4-1, where Højbjerg and Skip really struggled in the midfield. Papamata Sarr came in and brought that calm and presence. He also had that great night out in the San Siro. I thought he was the best player on the pitch. But unfortunately, because of his age, Conte found it hard to trust him and really sort of given the minutes. Now, I'd argue over the last two games, I think he's been outside of Lo Celso. I think he's probably arguably been one of our best midfielders. Do you think he's going to stay around? And is he going to get the minutes? Because the whole point of him staying around is he is going to need minutes to help develop him as well. So if he does stay around, is he going to get the minutes? And we'll start with you on this one, Wes.
Heck yes. Please, let's actually play him. Like, please. Like, to me, he's ahead of Skip. And I think he is younger than Skip right now, which is crazy. And Skip done had spurts of long period playing time for Spurs. To me, I think Poppy Montestar, I think that man right there could be just like Basuma, a big time player in the Premier League. Like, I really do. I think we got one of those players that Levy likes. He buys these players that are like cheap and that the potential is supposed to be high. He's one of those players that he's showing that potential right in front of our eyes. And I feel like he just needs a coach that trusts him and gives him the playing time. I do not want to see him alone. I do not want to see him alone. I want to see him get playing time. I feel like our strongest suit right now is our midfielders. We're pretty stacked on midfielders. I think we probably got some of the best midfielders in one team in the league. To me, just personally, especially when it comes to the age differences. I think we got a balanced out age group as well. I think, I don't want to see him alone. I do not want to see him alone. I don't.
For sure. Look, I'm a big believer in the guy. Sarr Dembele is what I call him, close to Musa Dembele. And for me, Starboy, Elton John, everyone sing it. Absolutely love it. So look, I agree with you on Papamata Sarr for sure. Now I want to move on to Lo Celso, and Paul Markey is bringing me into this conversation. Lovely. He says, I said it 2 years ago that Lo Celso played in the proper position could be a game winner, and I'll say it again. Ange has him right. Keep him. Now, the latest reports on this, just quickly, Paul Markey, and we'll get to answering your super chats. Before the game kicked off today, just before kickoff, there was reports leaked in Spain that Ange Postecoglou wants to keep hold of Lo Celso and is convinced him to stay. Now, after the game, Postecoglou was asked on it. They asked him, reports in Spain saying that he'd like to keep Lo Celso. Are they true? And Ange basically says, you don't have to go to Spain, mate. You can just ask me. Yeah, I like Gio. He fits the way we play. I enjoy working with him, and he seems to enjoy working with us. And look, on this one, I'm going to eat a humble pie because I thought, under Jose Mourinho, I just thought there was a lack of care to him. And there was a lot of reports when he left that he wasn't the nicest around the place, this, that, and the other. And I got the system argument, but for me, I think we make too many excuses for modern day players because we don't make them excuses for Kane and Son. And maybe it's just me or maybe it's wrong of me, but I hold everybody to that standard. Because if I see players that don't make an excuse for any other manager, they're the players I want representing me. They're the players I want out there representing in my jersey. So, with Lo Celso, in my opinion, I was right to call it. It's sort of like, it doesn't matter. Whatever the manager is, if you love this club and you love football, you'll get on, you want to play week in, week out. You'll get out there and do no matter what the manager has asked of you. And they all would have had to do at some stage, coming through academy football to adapt to different manager systems to be able to make it as a professional. So I don't buy the argument that, he doesn't suit a system. They'll suit a system if they want to. But I will eat humble pie when it comes to the Celso because, I was expecting him I was expecting him to be overlooked, to be honest with you, this preseason. But he has come to the party. He's turned up in both games. He's scored in both games. And for me, I think he's been outstanding in both games, picking up pockets of space to receive the ball, but also treading the ball through the lines. Absolutely love it. And for me, I'm willing to give this guy a second chance. And it looks like Paul Markey, he's not giving him a second chance, but he's sort of stuck to his guns all along, and maybe he's getting rewarded for it now. That's one hell of a long game to play, Paul Markey. Big yourself up. Looks like Joe Lewis is about to play a long game himself, but we'll get on to that. But, we'll throw this one to you, Michael, and we'll also let Wes in on the back of that as well. Michael, Lo Celso, what do you make of the 2 45-minute performances? Look, should we get carried away? It's only sort of preseason. It's not physical. There's no pressure on you. You have time to play. But are you okay with Ange Postecoglou giving him a second chance? Does he deserve it?
Yeah, so before I answer the Lo Celso, right, just quickly give me 1 minute. One thing I wanted to also mention, because you boys were saying about attacking the low blocking teams, right? And I remember it so well after the Sheffield United loss in the FA Cup last season. Me and you, David, we spoke about attacking low block teams. One thing I told you was you either put in crosses and use your striker, or you shoot from distance. Those are two. This is the way that United absolutely rinsed us when we played at Old Trafford last season, right? If you remember. I saw Maddison today taking 8 shots from distance or something mad like that. I am so happy.
And don't forget SARS.
And SARS. I am so happy that someone finally has the balls to pull the trigger.
Yes.
Kane and Son have been doing it in past years, but recently not so much, right? Maddison, he got the ball, got some space, boom, shoots barely over the bar, barely near the post, right? He will land one of those eventually, right? And then we'll be jizzing all over the screens, right? Because we'll be so happy that he did. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. But with Lo Celso, right? I am in your boat, David, completely. I had to post a written apology to my brother today because he was always banging the Lo Celso drum, and he was he's a talented guy. You guys haven't been using him in the proper system, right? And I was always okay, I get it, but if the guy doesn't want to be here, then I don't want him to be here, right? It's easy ball for me. You want to play for my team, I will give you my time, I will give you my patience, I will let you try, right? But with Lo Celso, I always had a feeling that he couldn't be asked to play for the team, right? And this is an attitude that I absolutely hate in players, right? Yeah. When you are playing for a team, you have to show me that you care, that you want to play for the team, right? Now, if Ange has convinced Lo Celso to stay and to work with him, and we are actually going to use the guy in his preferred role, which is this 8 and 10 hybrid in the middle, I am perfectly fine with keeping him. I think he will be an amazing tool to use for Ange. And this is also one shout out to my brother. He always has been banging the drum that Lo Celso has an amazing through ball, an eye for through balls, right? And this is something that we've seen in both games. Both games, he completely put it on a plate for Richarlison. And in the West Ham game, he didn't take the chance, but right now he did, right? I think this is something that can be really, really a valuable, technique that we can use, because you can try to go through the defensive block with the through ball, but you have to have like each perfect, pass, perfectly weighted so that you don't shoot it outside the field, right? And he can do that, right? So for me, if the guy is willing to stay, if the guy is willing to play under Ange, I am completely happy with keeping him. I
One, one thing I will say on that, Wes, and we'll pass it over to you as well, is for me, he can be kept around with the way Ange plays, but the minute things get tough, he ain't going to muck in. He ain't going to dig in for you. We've seen that with Jose Mourinho. He's not that sort of guy. But look, what do you make of Lo Celso overall?
He's been playing great. That's the thing. That's the thing that kills me because I'm on the same boat that y'all two were on. Like we were all saying it during the Jose days. He doesn't want to. He only wants to play a certain type of way, which is the reason why I feel like he kept on going back on loan to Spain, because Spain, most Spanish teams play a certain way. They play a lot of front foot, very tiki-taka type of play in the La Liga, which is why he's so comfortable going to that league all the time, especially these last couple loan spells. And now that we're finally playing a system that's more attack, on the foot, where he can throw out through balls and be more creative, and doesn't have to do a lot of defensive work like he was if he was in a Jose system. He's now showing, okay, what kind of player that we've been thinking he could already do. We already knew he could do, is that he didn't want to play it in the defensive type of system that Jose had set up with previous coaches. I'm on the fence. Like, if really just down to the manager, I keep him because he fits the system at the moment. But now we just got to hope that we don't fire Ainge at the end of the season and then we change the whole system again. And now we got a player that's on just a couple more years of a contract. He's like 26, 27 or something like that. We got to hope we don't get. That's the only thing about when we have certain players that's for a certain system. If the front office end up firing Ainge for a so-so season, which most likely would be the front office's fault because they didn't buy center backs, which I hope is not the case. But it does usually end up being the case. It's really the front office fault, but they blame it on the manager. We're going to have situational players that were only fit for the system that they got put into.
Yeah.
So that's my only thing I'm scared for, is for future tense. If Ainge is here for the next 5 years and we start off great and he's able to build momentum like he's supposed to and supposed to be allowed to do for this so-called rebuild, then yes, let's keep Lo Celso because he fits his system and the way he's trying to play. But the only thing I'm scared about is what if, we have to change the system, we go to a more defensive and offensive type of balanced style of play, and Lo Celso's not even for doing any of that kind of stuff. That's my only thing. Then his the way he acts, is he about playing for this club and actually giving his all? Not just, I think, does he play for Argentina? Is that the whole moniker?
Well, he was injured. He was injured for the World Cup, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was injured for the World Cup. But I remember fans say he plays for Argentina, but he doesn't play for us. And then we got to worry about his injuries. He has nagging injuries here and there, which is another thing that kills him. Like he'll be playing great for like 3 or 4 games straight. He'll get injured for like 4 months afterwards. It's the most craziest thing with Lo Celso. And then we have that with some other players as well. That end up playing great. It's a weird one, but if Ange wants to keep him, I'm backing the coach or wherever the manager wants to do.
Yeah, it's a good option for us. We do need someone outside of Madison, and Bissouma maybe that can also add and play in that role. So I think it's a wise move. But look, Paul Markey, let's know what your thoughts are on that discussion. You brought out the very best of us there in that super chat, so I really appreciate it, my man. And I know you're just more or less showing your appreciation for the channel overall, so big yourself up, Paul. Anyone else wants to show some appreciation for the watch-alongs, post-match shows? And by the way, when the Premier League kicks off, it'll be pre-match shows, watch-along, post-match shows, plus all interactive content for all of you guys out there. So feel free to grab the channel membership or send in a super chat with your question, and we'll definitely get onto it and have a good discussion like we did on that one. But Paul Markey, serve me up that humble pie, my man. Big yourself up. Absolutely tasty. Love it. Love it. Now, look, let's move on. There's one more thing I did want to discuss, guys. And that is the difference between the first half and second half performances. Now, look, you can put it down to many sort of things. Look, West Ham in the first game didn't change too much coming out at halftime. You look today, I didn't see it, but I think you said, Michael, they changed, what,
Yes,
7?
7 changes.
Yeah, so they made changes today. So you can't just put it fully down to that. You can't just put it fully down to players having, wanted to make an impact or prove a point to prove. But, I mean, slow starts is something that has been a problem at this club for quite some time. We've been called second half FC for quite some time, especially from under Conte. And I would say if there is any hangover from the Conte period, it's getting these guys going from minute one. So, look, we'll start with you, Michael. I mean, how do we change that? Because we have to get them out. Because we go into the Premier League with that attitude. You find yourself 2-3, like Newcastle, 6-1 down very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's as I said at the beginning of the show, it's worrying for me because, as you said, you can't really like pinpoint the exact reason why it's happening, right? Because on paper, when you look at that team that started the first half today, like this is, as I said, most likely what all of us would envisage as our starting 11 or close to it, right? With maybe 2 personal changes here and there, right? And the fact that those guys can just start dominating the game in terms of, because I know we dominated the ball. I know we were sitting in the half most of the time, right? But dominating in terms of like quick, punch to the gut, 2 goals in first 15 minutes. How is that not happening is beyond me, right? And I think it's a lot of it is the hangover from Conte era, right? I feel like they were ordered under Conte to keep things as calm and as like stable as they could, right? Which means not taking risk, not doing something maybe brave, but that can turn to be really stupid, right? They were asked to be like, rigid, fit the system, do whatever the system requires, etc., right? So it will have to be coached out of them, right? Because otherwise, like, as you said, when Premier League comes and we start playing against like Arsenal or Liverpool or even United second game of the season, right? When they come to us and we start like that, like we did today, oh boy, it's going to be long, right? Especially with this defense. But let's not get into it. Just look at it systematically, right? Systemically, sorry. Like we have to be more on the front foot. We have to be more brave, right? And I think that's what we lacked today. But I think, again, I am willing to give them a lot of time. Ange, like, let's be honest, Ange has, 26 days in the job, right? Officially, or like 30 days in the job. Like, give him time to work with these players, give him time to work with those guys, right? Because I know many of them have literal bags of talent in them, right? Poro, Udoji, Madison, Kulusevski, Son, Romero, all those guys that we doubt after those 2 first halves. I know that they can do better, right? But it will take some time. And I think it's doable. I don't think it's like you need to do anything drastic, right? But for me, that team that we saw today in the first half, I think that's pretty much still what I would want to see as a starting 11. I think I would change one of the fullbacks to a more defensive one. And I think maybe like Shakhtar or Barcelona would be a good place to practice. But I think I would put a midfield 3 of Bissouma, Lo Celso and Madison and try that, see if it's not maybe too offensive. But I think if those 3 guys could work, oh my God, like Madison and Lo Celso as those 2 8s attacking, wow, that would be sauce, right? So I think I would try that. I would give like a lot of time for the front 3 to do their job, right? Because Solomon and Perisic and Richarlison showed us great things so far, but I still am completely 100% sure that Son, Kulusevski, and Kane are better players, right? So I would still give them chance to set into the system, right?
For sure. Paul Markey says McAllister only got into the into the Argentina World Cup team because Lo Celso was injured. Remember, all players can suffer injuries. Lo Celso plays Spurs type ball. And look, Madison has benefited massively, or not Madison, McAllister has benefited massively from it. had a very good World Cup, showed he can do both sides of the game, get stuck in and play ball. And, he got a move to Liverpool off the back of it. And, probably benefited from Lo Celso's absence. And look, my biggest problem has been, like I said, with the guy, and like Ndombele as well, like some other players in and around the Spurs team, too many times do they not want to play for individual managers. And it's like, we pay your wages. Fans come and support you. They support this club. So regardless of what manager's in charge, you get out there and perform. And if you really have that motivation and that desire, you will fit into managers' teams. We've all had to do it. We've all played ball. We've all had to sacrifice some parts of our games to fit into certain teams. And it's that simple. If you don't want to do it, you don't play. So, look, I get Lo Celso as an injuries, and I get different systems haven't suited Lo Celso's type of game. But for me, I'm not making that excuse for this guy. We don't make it for Kane. We don't make it for Son, and I'm not going to make it for Lo Celso. But now that we do have a manager that Lo Celso fits into, if he's committed and he wants to be here, I'm all well for it. My only concern is if things get tough and we might and they don't take off the way we're expecting, if we don't do certain business, Ange will have to revert to something different to keep us in games, to go and win them. And he'll have to revert to something different, which then means Lo Celso might have to come out of the team, because he's not that guy that's going to muck in, dig in, and dog in when you need him to. He's just not. He's already proven that. However, he fits Ange's team. For me, I think he's been the best midfielder out of the whole lot of them over pre-season. And he's proven to me that he's willing to muck in. He's proven to me that, because one of my biggest problems as well, just quickly, Paul Markey, there was a game against Man United, and Son was in. And all he's got to do is inside of the boot pass, wrap it around Sonny, he's in. He didn't. He done an outside of the boot pass, put it behind Sonny. Sonny had to check the run, and it completely foiled the attack. And it's moments like that that were pissing me off with Lo Celso. I was starting to question, how much does he care? But however, he looks like he's got his act together and he's here to play. So I'm all for it. Like I said, Paul Markey, dish me up that humble pie. Make sure it's heated. I prefer my apple pie with a bit of heat behind it. So big up Paul Markey. And then we also have Moondog says big up David and guest centre backs now. Moondog, great to see you first of all, sir. Hopefully you are keeping well, my man. Hopefully you enjoyed today's win as well. I got to celebrate with my Harry Kane masterpiece that you made me one last time as well, the commemoration piece. So it's a good day all around for me. Plus, we're Tiger Champions 2023, rah, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, we do need the centre-backs in big time. I mean, just quickly, because we've already sort of covered it, Ben Davies, I mean, I blame him for the goal. He didn't need to give the ball away there. I mean, it's Lion City Sailors, not Man City, not Liverpool. And he still fluffs his lines and panics. Dyer, the one time he went to run out with the ball, again, he lost it. And we're not playing against any sort of decent opponent. So it's a huge concern. And that first half, as we've seen with West Ham, you can very easily, against better opponents, be 2-3 down. And then by then you're chasing a game trying to salvage it, and you're in the same situation you were underneath Antonio Conte. And then it'll prove it's not down to tactics, it's down to that back line. But instead of waiting to find the harsh lesson when the season kicks off and the window's closed, let's just make the noise about it now so that the club listen. Let's stop these stupid discussions over Romero, over, other players, Højbjerg and stuff like that. Let's deal with the problem. We're experts at manifesting other problems. We're expert at talking about other areas, bar the ones we actually need. So let's just get it done. Moondog, beat yourself up. But Wes, how do we stop these slow starts to games? Because a lot of people sort of question, was it down to Conte running the bollocks off them before games? Famously, and he done this at Inter as well, he gets his players to run on average 2.4 kilometers before games even start. And a lot of sports scientists and people, they say, that's too much. You're basically turning them out before the game starts. But, Ange Postecoglou isn't doing that, and we're still starting off games slow. So what do we do? Do we make them take ice baths for 20 seconds before kick-off? Do we stand someone on the side of the pitch with a hose to spray them down in their face, wake them up and realize they're in a game? I mean, what do we do? Because it can't keep continuing. It's something that hindered us last season, and we can't do that again this time. It's not, we're not playing that defensive football looking to hit on the counter. We're on the front foot football. So we have to start electric for it to work.
Yeah. I'll be real with you. I do not know. To me, this goes down to mentality. I know we've heard that word probably a billion times as Spurs fans, especially these last couple of years when it comes to mentality This whole first, second half FC stuff, and then I think points at the end of the season it was first half FC. At some points, so we went back and forth for I don't know for some reason. It's weird because to me it just goes down to the level of players, the determination, mentality, the way the team is set up, what players are feeling, and things of that nature is the reason why we keep on having where we keep on starting off slow, but we end up getting to the 10th game, and then it takes us being a goal or two down before we start actually playing. I don't know. I hope that's not the case with this team and the way Ange has this team set up. But for that is only thing I can even think of is it just goes down to mentality and the caliber of players. To me, I think another thing is build up play from the back line and things of that nature, which as you know we don't have the level of talent. So for I say Udoji and maybe Poro when it comes to attacking wise, offensive wise, of controlling the ball, breaking it up, and Reacion too. I give Reacion credit because his offensive side is better. But it goes down to me, most important, if we're going to play this type of front foot type of football, that's including our center backs. Our center backs got to be able to start off, the level.
Is it a mentality issue, always? Is it a mentality issue?
That's why I was saying it's this mentality, and it comes down to the level of players, on the caliber of players you have. So to me, I think once we get players that are supposed to be of the quality level that's standard for us to make a top four, and start going after silverware, that kind of stuff would start going away. But right now we got players like Dyer, Davies. We got players that just don't. They say it in front of us. In front of the cameras, they say, "Hell yeah, we're about the club." Et cetera, et cetera. We hear it every single time, especially whenever they have a game where they know it's their fault, and they have to have that end of the game interview, and they have to discuss why they effed up. It's usually them two or somebody else. So and I'm quite tired of it.
Referees or the weather or the opposition crowd in
exactly.
games, they sort of tend to get the blame for it, and then the managers as well, they tend to carry the blame. It's
exactly.
I'm fed up with it. I mean, I could pay my pet pigeon to come out and speak, in a press conference after saying he loves the game. It doesn't mean he actually loves the club. They love the club until it comes to them having to leave the club, and then they get the manager sacked. So.
It's just time. Yeah, it's just time to get rid of that team because they're just. You know how you have like a smell on the shirt and you can't get it off as many times as you wash it. That's what we got right now when it comes to that back line. It's time for a change. I think if we don't get no center backs in, we need to really be fans need to be out there with pitchforks and firewood or something like this. It's just ridiculous at this point. I don't even like I said. I will even take Levy being cheap and just getting one big-time defensive center back and getting Longley at this point. Just to change the back line. Get rid of Sanchez. He's supposed to go off to Russia. Have him get shipped off so we at least get some money back because, Levy loves that kind of thing where you have to get some type of money back before we buy. Do that. I don't even care if we just get Tapsoba and Longley. I don't care at this point. They're better players than what we have currently. Tapsoba and Romero would be perfect as the starting center backs for me. So do something. I don't care if it's Van der Ven and Longley. I don't care. We need center backs. We need better center backs than what we have on hand because all that stuff will go away. We'll start to see a better foundation of the build-up play and everything coming from the back line, which is a problem because that will be a problem if we can't build off on the back as well because there's going to be times where they have to be decent on the ball. And one thing at least about Longley, regardless of how good of a player y'all think he is, he's better than what the players we have currently, and he's better on the ball, and especially when it comes to passing. So I feel like in this style of play, he'll fit this system pretty well. And if that's what we have to do, at least that would be better than what we have, and at least be an upgrade instead of a downgrade. I understand he's a big time player, but then again, Levy is cheap. So,
well, look, we're going to get on to our owners now. Just give me 2 seconds. I mean, last thing I will say on the centre backs is we've got to remember we're not going to go into every game having this 80% possession, 37 shots on goal. There are going to be games where oppositions push back. They're going to be hanging in the balance. Some teams might even dominate us. And that's where you're going to see the effect of not having that back line. You're going to absolutely crumble and cave in. But just quickly, Paul Markey, I mean, you and my dad actually, now that I come to think of you, very similar outlook on players. My old lad always said, look, forget Ndombele, doesn't want to do it, but with Lo Celso, there's a player in there getting back. So you and my old lad, you seem to have very good takes on midfielders, and you're never very too far wrong when it comes to them. So I want to give you a bit of props for that as well. So big up Paul Markey. And then quickly, a bit of news that came out after today's game is that Ivan Perisic has been told he can leave if the right move opens up, and that's come from Matt Law. So look, on all of that, when it comes to Perisic, I think, look, that maybe hints that Gill is staying and that Perisic will be the one offloaded.
I'm sorry. I said I completely agree. I want him to stay. I want him to have a chance. I want him to have at least one season full being on the team, not being loaned out to Spain, which even if we loan him out, he needs to be here. He needs to be in England playing in what championship something. He needs to be in England. He can't be going back to where he's comfortable at. For him to improve as a player, especially at the age he's at. Sooner or later, he's supposed to be a national team, a Spanish national team player. So they have him at that high of thought from when it comes to the clubs from Spain. So we need to see what he's about. I think as a winger, I think he'll fit Ange's system because of his technicality. I think his IQ is probably one of the best on the team right now. I really, really like him. I think he can cross the ball. I think if you put him at like left wing, he could really cross the ball in. And maybe you have to move Solomon to the right. I don't know how good. Is Solomon a right-footed player or left-footed player? Right. Put Solomon on the right. He can bang in crosses as well. That would fit to me perfectly. And then plus you got a younger player that's more up and coming, has high potential than somebody like Perisic, who is now on his last legs. He's probably going to be looking to retire or fade out very soon.
Now, look, I want to just because I need to run to the toilet, so I'm going to leave you with a quick question. Look, we all know what's going on with the ownership right now. Of course, Joe Lewis was indicted last night on, I think, double digits in terms of insider trading. And basically, for those, I'm pretty sure everyone knows, but he gave his pilots a loan of $500K each, his private pilots, to go put money on the company. And then once it rised, they told him to sell it. He got his money back. They all made money to his mistresses as well. Mistresses, so that's plural, by the way. He sort of helped them all out with insider trading. Now, a lot of reports coming out today, and Matt Law is the latest one I've seen, where they say it's not going to affect Tottenham. And the reason why is, if you remember last year, people maybe thought there maybe was a sale coming on the horizon of the football club when Joe Lewis seized control and put it into a Lewis family trust, which means now that Tottenham Hotspur will not be affected by it going forward. But I want to know your thoughts on the overall situation in general, guys. Now, I'll be back in 1 second. And look, Michael, you can kick it off because you're the one that wanted to bring it up today. So let's have that discussion, my man.
Yeah, so maybe before David comes back, right? There is one thing I wanted to say about centre backs, right? The thing that pisses me off the most, and I said it to David on Monday's show, right? The one thing that pisses me off the most is the lack of action, right? My preferred choice would be Tapsoba. We talked about it, right? My preferred choice would be Tapsoba, right? But if Leverkusen don't want to sell, then go somewhere else. Find a different center back. There is so many of them in Europe. Like literally, I can give you 10 surnames that I would want in that space, right? Instead of Tapsoba, if Tapsoba is not the deal to be done, right? There's many teams that when you go to them and you put 30 million on the table, they will kiss your fucking hand and ask you to give them the money, right?
Exactly.
And push the player out. It's so infuriating because we need a change. It's not even about spending 2 times 50 million on world-class centre backs or whatever, right? We need a change in this centre back because those guys that play there, they are too settled. They are too assured. They're too assured of their space, right, in the team. They have to be challenged. Even if it's a 21-year-old from Croatia, my go-to signing Josip Suta. Josip Suta, right? Yeah. Get him in. He will provide competition and he will provide he will dethrone them if they are not good enough, right? And then they will have to fight for their place, and maybe a fire lights up under their ass, so that when they are given a chance, they will have to prove themselves, right? But with the whole Joe Lewis thing, right?
Explain to me what's going on with that.
Yeah, so basically, listen, I don't really have the knowledge in terms of specific naming of the positions of people that are doing all the investigation. Well, because it's U.S. attorney who is hired in state attorneys, whatever, right? I'm not really sure about that whole who is over who, etc. But what I know is that the like attorney of the state of New York, I think, New York South or something it was called. They did an official, like, they posted a video or in the national television saying that they are indictment, it's called, right? That they are indicting Joe Louis on the case of inside trading. They have 19 different cases on him, right? Which I saw that if they proved all of them, they combined give him like a sentence of like 180 years of prison or something like that. It's a really fucked up case, right? It's not that he did something, something minor that that nobody's going to care about. He's going to get fined. This is a serious crime, right?
And I just want to, just before you move on, I just want to explain that indictment means basically all the investigation has already been undertook. It's already been done, and they're bringing them to trial for it because they believe they have a strong case. I believe they have text messages and stuff like that from the likes of his private pilots and people like that. So
basically, indictment means that they are going to court with this. It's like it's done. They have all the evidence, etc. I also saw a statistic that if those guys indict you, there is like 99.6% conviction rate that you are going to get sentenced. So basically, it's pretty much like a done deal, right? And now it's not going to maybe affect Tottenham directly, but what I heard is that if they like whatever money they attribute to that case, that you got some money from like those insider trading like frauds, etc., right? They can freeze it, right? The US government takes control the same way like they did with the Abramovich stuff, right? They basically, when they broke the British law, the British government froze the Abramovich's like yachts, all those apartments, etc. They took control over them, right? In that case, if the US government puts their hand on Joe Lewis's I'm missing English words, like assets. If they put their hands on Joe Lewis's assets, then most likely British government will react, right? Because like ENIC and Travis Talk not, but ENIC is an English company, right? And they won't allow like US to have a hold on like such a big English company, which in terms could probably mean that they will force Joe Louis to sell his shares in ENIC, right? And as we know, he has like 71 or something % shares in ENIC, and ENIC controls Tottenham, right? So it's not like it directly affects Spurs, but it might mean that if that whole situation is over and they actually like sentence him to jail, whatever, right? He might be forced to sell his shares in ENIC, which because of how much he has, right? 71 or 2% or whatever it was, it might mean that it's not him, but his kids, but it's like Louis, like him and his children, right? That he might need to sell them to his kids or to Daniel Levy or someone else, right? Which in terms would mean that we would probably get something like ownership change.
That's why you've seen. That's why you've seen a lot of the reports about QSI potential investment maybe taking over his shares of the club. Or remember, we had Jam the Jaffe not so long ago. Potentially could be that case, but Tottenham won't be affected because it's Joe Louis seized control of the club and put it into the family trust name, so that he obviously knew this was coming. So that when this comes, basically they can't. If they freeze his assets, they can't freeze Tottenham because it's not under his control. It's under the family trust control. So, look, I agree with you. It might end up forcing him to sell his shares in ENIC or this, that, and the other. He could carry, a heavy fine plus prison time. You know what I mean? So, look, there's a long way to go on this. Yeah, a hell of a long way to go. This could go quiet for the next 9 months, and it's going to take a couple of years to go to court anyway. You know what I mean? So, there's a lot to run on this, but it's just not good for the club to have it surrounded in this. A lot of people want to Paratici out for bringing the club into disrepute, and this guy is also doing the same because although this guy's got over 200 companies, he's invested in biotech, he's invested in agriculture, There's so many different things this guy has his hands in. When it comes to what am I trying to say? When it comes to Tottenham Hotspur, it's a bit different. So, we'll wait and see how it pans out. But it'd be interesting to see how it happens. But this guy, it'd be interesting to see if anyone in Tottenham have also benefited from the insider knowledge. We don't know. As Daniel Levy benefited from knowledge. A lot of reports coming out saying that Tottenham won't be affected, and that means they've probably done asked around that people benefit from it. But look, we'll see how this fallout continues. But because Joe Lewis is constantly going to mention the biggest thing he has on his portfolio is Tottenham Hotspur, so they're always going to be linked to this regardless.
Yeah, so basically, like two things I want to mention is one, I read and heard that when those governing bodies in United States, that they will hunt your ass. They will literally check every single corner that they can to prove that you are guilty, right? I even heard someone say that when Harry Kane visited his yacht 1 year ago or 2 years ago, that they will probably investigate even Kane, right? Because he had contact with Joe Lewis. Every single person that is connected to Joe Lewis will be questioned, will be checked, will be, everything will be done to prove who is guilty, who's not guilty, etc., right? But with Tottenham, what I read and heard, listen, I didn't study law or etc., right? So don't quote me on that. That's all I'm saying is what I heard, what I read, etc. What I heard is that we aren't going to get a transfer ban or financial repercussions, or nobody is going to freeze us like they did with Chelsea, right? It's not that, because we are not directly owned by Joe Lewis. With Chelsea, it was different because Chelsea was directly owned by Abramovich, and I know other people had some shares in the club, but it was directly owned by Abramovich. So when his assets were frozen, Chelsea was frozen, right? With us, it's a bit different because we are owned by INIC, and INIC is owned by Lewis, but Lewis is only a majority shareholder in INIC. So even if they freeze his assets, he will most likely, as I said, be forced to sell his shares in the company, right? To who
Daniel Levy and his family.
They
own the rest of ENIC, they own the other shares.
Possibly Daniel Levy, maybe Joe Lewis's kids, if they are not involved in the whole situation, right? Because that's also one thing that
hard to believe, though, right?
Yeah, that's hard to believe. I heard a lot about his daughter being on now the name that's over it now. Over his shares.
So in terms of Spurs, I would be calm. I listen, I'm 99% sure, and again, it's not I know for certain, but my feeling is 99% that it's not going to affect the club directly. But I think what it means for us that maybe we'll have an ownership change because of that, right? Because he will be forced to sell his shares when he is convicted, right? And when he is sentenced to prison, whatever fines, whatever he's sentenced, right, for, and how much he is sentenced for. So it was surprising. I swear to God, I was supposed to go to bed yesterday at 1 a.m. and the news broke out, and I was immediately, joining the streams, listening to the stuff, reading, etc. I ended up going to bed at 4 a.m. Tired again. It was so.
Same here, that's why they said there's never a dull day being a Tottenham fan. Even when you think there's nothing, there's always going to be something. With Bonner, look, I would say, I'd say when he ceased control and handed it over, I'd say he knew back then. I think he would have known he would have been under investigation somewhere along the line, or that someone's tattled on him somewhere along the line. And then maybe him ceasing control of Tottenham and put it in the trust is him maybe trying to get ahead of it. But look, he has handed himself in. I think he handed himself in today, actually, I believe. So let's wait and see what happens. I know from his side, from the club side, and from his lawyer's side, they've come out and said, he's got absolutely nothing to answer. So we'll wait and see how it pans out. But Wes, anything you want to say on it before we end off, my man?
Even if say he has to sell off his shares, and that's one of the things he has to do, say that's what the judge tells him he has to do. It's that share, the worth of his shares that he owns is what, 4-5 billion, because of the stadium and because of the training facility that got built in 2012, 2013. it's going to take a while to see what kind of owner even try to spend that kind of money on a club, especially in the system. It's not like how we have in the MLS where you stay in one league and that's it. You're pretty much betting and hoping that that you keep the club good enough to stay in the Premier League to keep getting the Premier League money, and that's a lot for an owner to think about when you're spending 4 or 5 bill. There's only so many owners and so many billionaires in the world that can even afford that kind of stuff. Even when they're just billionaire, they're just worth 1 bill. And so it's going to probably take a conglomerate of other owners, maybe that may take the other 70%. They may make a deal with Levy and they take 50%. Levy takes the other 20. Because I know Levy wants to I think he's keeping his shares regardless because, he's supposed to be so-called a fan of the club. I know one comment said that maybe it's been Lewis who's the one who's been, stringholding the money. Maybe Levy wants to do more, but he's not because Lewis is in control. I don't know. That right there, I've always been weird about.
I spoke to Harry Redknapp on that, Wes.
Okay.
And I basically said to him, because I was at an event and basically I was a VIP at the event, so I got to spend a bit of time with Harry and ask him a couple of questions. And if anyone doesn't believe
jealous by the way.
If anyone doesn't believe me, I've got another guy who came with me on the night. He'll back me up and he'll vouch for me. And I said to him, what's the story with Tottenham's transfer policy? Why does it always seem so difficult, more or less? And he sort of just said, look, Dave, you've got an owner who just doesn't care. He has no say on the ins and outs, but he's basically given Daniel Levy a business model to operate under, which is self-sustainable. He was like, he's saying Joe Lewis could do what Abramovich done with Chelsea. He just chooses not to. So, it comes from him. But look, if he's willing to do inside trading to help everyone else and make them rich, well, start doing something for Tottenham bloody Hotspur then. Start getting the right business in, start demanding centre-backs in here. But look, guys, it's go on.
Yeah, like Joe Lewis, his net worth is pretty much the same as Todd Bowley. Pretty much the same, right? It's like Todd Bowley is 5.5 billion, I think, and Joe Lewis is like 4.9 or 5.1 or something stupid like that, right? He has the money. He could do it, right?
He just doesn't want to.
Honestly, like if I were to give my opinion on the whole situation, I don't really care what happens to Lewis, right? He's 86-year-old. He did all his stuff, right? He's sitting on his yacht in Florida, sipping, sipping orange juices, martinis and whatever, right? I don't care what happens to the guy. All I care about is that if he gets if he gets sentenced, right, and if he's made to sell his stocks, then there is a change coming to our club, right? If it's Daniel Levy who keeps most of the INIC and suddenly becomes the majority shareholder in Tottenham and in INIC, if it's someone else, right, at least there will be some change. Because with Joe Lewis, he's nowhere to be seen. He never speaks. He never gives money. He does nothing, right?
Hasn't went to a game. He has not went to a match since 2014, 2013, something like that. I hate owners like this that they just buy it for the business sake. They're not there for actually being on hand. He's not a hands-on owner, and that's always a problem. That's in any sport. That's even in America. If you have an owner that's not hands-on, you're going to have a team that's most likely just going to be bad or just enough good, and that's never ever good when you have an offhands owner. Look what happened with Wrexham. Both of them are hands-on owner, and you see they got promoted in the first time in like 20 years, and just like that from being a hands-on owner. So you see Todd Bowley, he has the same net worth, but he's more hands-on. I hope it happens. I hope somehow magically he has to sell his shares, and maybe Levy will finally have the handcuffs off of him. He may be able to do what he's always dreamed of doing for Tottenham, that he's always wanted to do, but he's been hand-stricken for whatever sake. And maybe he actually changed his whole name up. Maybe. It's up to him, but
I'm not making excuses for Levy either, because Levy, Levy owns a percentage of ENIC, and I have no doubt he's more than happy to operate under that business model. And he could be pushing for more. He could be up to Joe Lewis, pushing for us to do more and expand the business model. But it doesn't seem like that's there. But Neil Shafton, he says, I live in the US, and Lewis will not go to court for some time, and if he gets to trial, it won't be for a while. His charges are inside trading. Martha Stewart didn't do much time and was a slap. I think Bernie Madoff as well, though. Didn't Bernie Madoff get done? I remember watching that documentary on Netflix. Now, I know his was a bit different. His was more of a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme. So it's a bit different to maybe Joe Lewis. But look, and his charges inside trading March Stewart didn't do too much time and got a slap on the wrist. Look, he may very well. The guy's 80 odd. You know, do they want that problem in prison? You know, it's not like you can just stick him in to a normal prison wing, right? You know, so it's sort of like, do they want that problem? He might well get off. Look, a lot of these elite people get off. They very rarely ever see prison time, especially the 1%. So, I mean, he might not see any prison time, but you know, it's like just stop making everyone else rich and give us something to cheer about. Long-suffering Tottenham fans, give us something to cheer about.
David, it's like even if he doesn't get jailed, right? Even if he doesn't go to jail, they just slap, you know, a wristband on him to know where he is, right? And put him back on the yacht, and they fine him like, you know, I don't know, $200 million or whatever, right? Let's just say it that way, right? FA and British government, they literally, the only reason why Abramovich was forced to sell was because he was like not sentenced but convicted of crimes, right? And they froze his assets. Like FA cares about the owners of the clubs, right? They won't just leave this whole situation without any response, right? They won't allow Lewis to be a sentenced owner of a club, right? That's not going to happen. The British government and the FA will.
I don't know about that though, Michael. You got to understand. They let Saudi buy Newcastle. Exactly. You know, look, this is going into politics and stuff like that. I don't really want to go down that far, but they still let Saudi buy, and look at the atrocities that's happened through that.
Yeah, but it's different because, again, I know you don't like going into politics because I'm not going to. All I'm going to say is that Saudis, they are doing what they are doing. We all know that, right? Let's not get into it. But they are not sentenced in United States or UK, right? You get the difference that we know that they are doing it. We know, like, majority of the billionaires that own Premier League clubs probably have something behind their ears, right? But it's about being sentenced and, you know, having like the government's watching over you, you know, all the stuff. The FA won't allow that, right? Because Saudis, they own the clubs, but it's not like they have, you know, 24/7 surveillance, you know, they are sentenced in jails, whatever, right? I get that. That's the difference. I know that Saudis did probably like worse things than Joe Lewis did with the insider trading, right? But the difference is the status of the investigation and the...
It's a criminal charge, I get you. Just quickly, I mean, Phil, he could be smoking Joe if he ends up in prison, if you get what I mean. And then Neil Shafton says, Maxoff was billions. Bernie Madoff was billions, not of insider trading tips to friends, which is insider trading. Madoff was billions, not insider trade. Yeah, I suppose, that's Madoff was a bit more of a Ponzi scheme where the people didn't know, they were just giving him money and he was doing it himself. Whereas Joe Lewis actually gave out the tips and stuff. So I get you. There are a few discretion. What's the word? Differences. Discrepancies or whatever. You know, now my dyslexia is coming to the fore. But
same.
Differences is what we will say, Neil Shaft, and I get that 100%, my man. But look, guys, we're going to end it off there. I've really, really enjoyed this show. Thank you to these two wise footballing heads, Michael and Wes. Great discussion today. Let me know in the comments below what you'd make of maybe the Kane and Kulu and Son have to switch wings in order for it to be more effective to provide Harry Kane with the same chances we're providing Rich in the second half. Let me know, are you prepared to eat humble pie like your boy here and give Lo Celso a second chance? And also, demand centre-backs in every comment section you go into. That's it from us. I want to say a massive thank you to you guys out there as well for engaging with the channel, super chatting, grabbing them channel memberships. It really does mean a lot. Make sure you, we have put stuff up in the community section and all for some of you channel members. Make sure you have a look and provide us with the things we need to live up to our end of the deal on the membership. So guys, we'll see you all back here tomorrow with something, I'm sure. As always, come on, you Spurs. Tiger is 2023. And in hands, we trust.
Give me fucking centre backs already.
Now.
Please.